we go. We have a few people on the call. Thank you for showing up early. I appreciate it.
Welcome, folks.
Yeah. We'll wait a little while, a few more minutes for people to start piling in. I've already, my Teams has been very strange. So if I have issues for any reason during this presentation, it's either going to be connectivity that happened earlier in the week, and I've also been completely cut out of Teams calls, but I didn't have any problems yesterday. So I'm hoping that they do not persist today. This Microsoft Gremlins sure do know how to get in my system and
They did an update too. I've had to reset all of my settings and mics and cameras this week.
I had a file in OneDrive that I use for all of my timekeeping, and it's a workbook. Every day has a new tab, and I started a new one for this month on Monday. Yeah, no, it was Tuesday. And then yesterday, I can't remember, but it had reverted back to the file before I had updated it. I just could not believe. It's like, OneDrive, why are you doing this? And I tried to get the last most, recent version that was actually accurate. And I had to go back like 6 versions. I'm like, I don't know what happened here. Oh, we've got a small group today. I'm going to give it just a couple of more minutes. Here we have one more joining. Okay, well, before I give a presentation today on ghosting the competition, I did want to give a little update on what happened in September. We had 2 local meetups. One in Huntsville. We had, oh goodness, I didn't bring my notes, but it was 11. Yes, it was 11 attendees, including myself, in Huntsville. And Knoxville had a meetup with a total of 4 attendees, I believe. I am still trying. I've been completely overloaded, have not been able to circle back to Nashville. There hasn't been an individual to take the lead on Nashville, so that's been pushed off a little bit, but it looks like Nashville will have a meetup. It probably is going to be geared closer to the October time frame. And we're going to continue pushing that, especially next year, more heavily, trying to do more things in more areas. And I do believe that as we continue with our local meetups, that we'll be able to start branching out more interests once people know that people are actually going to these. Of course, it's dependent on region, so forth and so on. But I know there's at least one person on the call that couldn't make it to our Huntsville meetup, and please know that we'll be adjusting the next meetup to be not on a Tuesday so that we have more attendees. But if you are interested in helping out, leading, or being the liaison, essentially, to help get local meetups going, just shoot me an email. I think everybody probably has my email address by now, but I usually go in and I'll post it into the chat towards the end of the session. We are also actively looking for board members to join us next year. I do believe that we have successfully recruited someone to fill Marianne's role as secretary. That is an essential role. Marianne has been with the board the longest of those of us that are on the board currently, and she's also involved in many different boards. So to alleviate a little bit of stress on her end, we were able to find a replacement. But if anybody is interested in learning more about being a board member, being associated with a board, or how you may be able to help us out in any way. Look at your strengths and things that you know that you're great at. Maybe you could lend a hand somewhere. Shoot me an email. I would love to have a conversation with you. We can also book some time together and we can chat about that as well. And with that, looks like that this is going to be a very small group, so I'll begin my presentation. Today, we're actually going to talk about ghosting the competition. And as I start to share my screen, I wanted to ask, and you can give a thumbs up or raise your hand, but have any of you actually used ghosting in any of your proposals that you have sent out? Anybody?
I have, Rachel.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So my company sells electricity and natural gas, and so it's important for us to be able to distinguish ourselves based on service instead of just the actual commodity we're providing, because it's something that is it's kind of a hard market to do that in, because the end result is always the same. You turn the lights on and they turn on. So so we have done a lot of ghosting in our our executive summaries, talking about we don't ever name specific, like if you've had poor billing issues or poor service from other providers, or maybe you've had, like, there's certain things that we know that are in their contracts that we know are not as friendly for customers. So we'll call those things out and be like, unlike other competitors who do this, we don't do that. So we have done that a fair amount in my company.
I have noticed that, especially with my role in geospatial, it is very hard when you have a lot of companies that are providing a service, and our win themes are always more closely tied to quality and on-time delivery. But when you're looking at a lot of different competitors, that's when this ghosting really does help. And like you said, when it's a matter of just turning the lights on or off in the long run, you have to use these ghosting technique so that evaluators can see you as the preferable choice. And that's the bottom line here: is we want our clients, or potential clients, to see us as the number one choice against our competitors. So that is why we are going to position our strengths to shine without ever naming our rival. Let's see. No, I did not need subtitles. I just clicked a button I did not mean to click. Here's something new for me. Let's try this again. I feel like a real idiot today. Let's try this one in slideshow. And then everybody gets to see my desktop, and then I will try it again. Let's see. Okay, from beginning. There we go. Now I don't have a pop-up asking me to say, okay, there we go. And now, agenda. So what is ghosting? We're going to talk about gathering client and competition, our competitor analysis, intelligence, build and implement the ghosting strategy and best practices. So what is ghosting? Well, ghosting is essentially exactly what it sounds like. We are going to subtly highlight our advantages and our strengths and put them up front for the client to see without ever naming our competition. It's strategic. If done properly, it's ethical, and it really does help evaluators in guiding them to choose you as the preferred choice or the preferred service provider contractor for your bid. And today we're going to look at where to embed your ghosting. We're going to tackle how to build that ghosting strategy, and hopefully you'll leave this with practical tools and examples that you can apply to your future proposals. Again, I know this is one of those topics that sometimes it's hard to do, especially if you're wearing 23 different hats. And sometimes even if you're only wearing one hat as a proposal manager, where you may not be as involved in capture, it might be a little bit harder for you, but this should encompass everyone, whether you're a one-man show or you're just in your swim lane and you have a humongous team. We can all work together to ghost together. So the first thing we want to do is gather our client intelligence, and that will include your client overview, your client needs, their constraints, their perspective of your company, the sources of intelligence. So those are your contacts, their public sources, the client interactions, social media, client interactions, especially coming from your business development individuals, and of course, actionable insights. And some of these you can actually glean from an RFP, especially where it comes to key themes and messaging. We all know that when we look at a solicitation and we look at the client's messaging, that we can turn that around and also use it as our messaging to the client. But in addition to client intelligence collection, since we have a small group and I think it's easy for us to kind of talk about this together, does anybody else see any other areas where you have dug into client intelligence on your own and have found like something marvelous, discovered any gold coming out of the intelligence that you're collecting on your client, or have tactics?
We had
Okay.
one client that had a I'm trying to remember, it was like the was it OIC? It was a government audit report done on them a few years back, where they had identified all sorts of issues with there was a handful of different things, but they had like budget constraints came up in it, some of their like transparency and their management. We got like a whole list of things that they had been called out on a recent audit that we were like, oh, okay, so this gives us a signal as to what issues this contracting officer is going to be concerned about. That was probably my favorite one that we came across. We don't always get those.
Yeah, that would be a hard one to get, but hey, that's great intelligence, right? Rachel, you have your hand up?
Yeah, here, I'll turn my camera around while I'm talking. So one of the things that I know my company's had success in is doing Freedom of Information Act requests. So a lot of public entities are required to disclose like bids of other competitors, like from past bids, that because of the Freedom of Information Act. And so you can do a request usually, and you kind of have to do a little digging to like figure out like how to submit the request to that public entity. But they are required to give it to you. Sometimes suppliers or like vendors may like redact their response. Like you can submit 2 copies, like one redacted, one not. So they might only give you like a redacted version, but sometimes they don't do that. And so then you can get the full vision into what other people are submitting for these types of bids. And so you can see maybe even what their pricing was and see if you can beat the pricing that they submitted before. I know my company had really good success with that. A couple of years ago, we were trying to win the contract to supply electricity to the state of Illinois. And we were able to go in and do a request like that. And they were able to figure out what the pricing was of the competitor that we were up against. And we were able to beat the price. And we won the contract. And it's been a really lucrative relationship since then. So that's something that is a way you can gain intelligence into at least for public entities. You can't do that with private companies, but it. And when I say public, I don't mean publicly traded. I mean like government customers or like school districts, universities, things like that. State governments, a lot of times they're required to follow those rules. And it mostly has fallen on in my company on our salespeople to do that as part of the capture process, but it is something to kind of take back to whatever team handles the capture in your company and seeing if that's something you can use.
That is very handy. We've even had some training, or at least there's a presentation that was given to us on FOIA requests. In the interest of our membership, just by show of hands, how many of you have have you submitted a FOIA request before or used FOIA? How about this? How many of you are interested in learning more about FOIA requests? Like the ins and outs of it? Nobody? One? Well, there's Rachel and Caroline. Okay.
Absolutely. I'm actually curious. I would be curious to hear a talk on that, because one of the things that we encountered in putting out FOIA requests was that there was since most of our clients are DoD, there was a FAR revision that said that you can't ask for the 3 Ps, performance, price, and proposals, that came out like last May. And I've never really heard anyone talk about it except when we went to put in some FOIA requests. The service that we go through said that they were all getting denied. And I don't know, no one seems to really know what's happening with that. So I'm curious to hear if anyone's had success since then. Yeah. And with
So
all
there
the
might
FAR
be
revisions,
some
that might not stay.
changes.
Yeah.
Was that in a particular state, or is that, I mean, have you seen that across?
No, it was in the Federal Acquisition Regulation. I forget the number for it, but yeah, it was really weird and very disappointing. And I don't even know if that actually does limit, or if that was just, people still do it. But that was disappointing to see.
Well, there are states, I do believe, I think Texas does it, Florida, the sunshine laws, where there are bids are made public. And if there is any proprietary type information that's in your proposal, it's supposed to be marked, and they'll make sure that that information is not part of public information. But if you look at sunshine states with the sunshine laws for information, you'll be able to get your competitors' proposals through whichever channel that particular state has set up. I have not used a sunshine law to obtain a proposal in the past, but I do know that they exist. So keep your eye out for that. That's another thing that I'm using this time to come up with some ideas as well for future topics that our membership might enjoy. So, but okay, FOIA. Okay, so after we are collecting our client intelligence, our next goal is to get to the competitive intelligence. So, of course, you're going to have to gather intel, use tools, and have proof and strategy. So gathering intel on your competitive intelligence. So that's, using your internal sales, capture, and delivery teams. They're the ones who are going to be able to tell you the most about your competitors if you are not as well versed with them. You can use your public sources such as press releases, industry reports, competitor website dives. These are things that I think that we all know, along with social media, online forums, monitor LinkedIn, blogs, industry discussions. one thing that I keep an eye on in my world that I work in are the publications directly tied to my work, and I'm trying to see what companies are being talked about, especially our biggest competitors. What companies are being talked about in those magazines, and picking up bits of information there just to stay on top of our biggest competitors, because for some of you, you may have competitors that are always going to be going after the same big bids that you're going after, and then you may have just regional type competitors. So it's always good to kind of keep your thumb on your competitors, especially on LinkedIn. I love following some of the competitors as well. It gives you some good information on their wins too. And of course, tools that you can use, a SWOT analysis. Hopefully everyone knows what a SWOT analysis is, but it's going to identify your strengths, weaknesses, and you can use it for external opportunities and threats. And of course, your bidder comparison matrix. So basically, evaluate yourself against your competitors. Look at what your strengths are, what their strengths are, and where you may be able to boost those strengths when you're actually developing the proposal. Proof point capture sheet. I have not used a proof point capture sheet, but it's basically just, a document that you're going to collect information to have valid data, support your claims, your metrics, and your testimonials. One thing that we don't have right now is a complete list of testimonials. They're kind of floating around everywhere, and we're trying to get a handle on those. Those testimonials are gold. That's one of those things that will also help support in during your strategy. So when you're using your proof and strategy, you definitely, again, collect your proof points, and you want to have measurable, credible evidence. These are real metrics that you can show, customer testimonials, so forth and so on. And this is when you go in and develop your strategy to show how you will tactically ghost the competitors by using your intel and tools. So all of this comes to this brainstorming activity, right? You gather your intel, you use your tools, and then you put it all together, excuse me, to develop your strategy. And of course, verified intelligence is integrated into the proposal narrative. That would be the next step. So, excuse me. I don't know if everybody else is having high pollen season around the Mid-South area, but it's been driving me crazy all week. Let's see here. Okay, so now we're going to build and implement the ghosting strategy. Step one, we're going to build. We're going to analyze the intelligence we collected and develop our strategy statements. Sorry. Slowing down towards midday here. I thought I'd have more hours going into the day. We are going to define what we're going to do and how we are going to do it. And of course, these statements are going to guide your ghosting tactics. And then you want to brainstorm your ghosting angles. What are the client's top 3 hot buttons? Well, if you were not a part of capture, hopefully you can glean that from the RFP. Where do your competitors fall short? This is where your competitor intelligence will come in. Determine risks that clients may associate with your competition. In a recent exercise that we had on a proposal that we are developing, we were actually looking at those risks that our competitors may bring to a certain project. And these are things such as saying that they can do the project on time, but you know that they absolutely project manage their way out of that promise on the front end. So these are ways, this is something that we know that is commonly used by a competitor. And our strategy to ghost them is to essentially claim that the timeline, we know the timeline is what it is, and we know that there are milestones that we have to meet, but thankfully the client has given us a little bit of leverage in how we meet those milestones. So that's one way that we can be honest in our strategy to meet that end goal while ghosting the competition, because we can say, hey, we recognize this is a tight timeline, but, and then we've got our ghosting strategy put in there. And what proof points reinforce your claims? Those are the ones that you gathered during your intelligence collection of your competitor and on your client. So next step after build is apply. And you want to be subtle about it. You want to be strategic about it. So we've got some examples here of ways that you can go subtly, but of course, we all work in different industries. I tried to mix these up, but it seems like really when it comes down to like software implementations, I think those are the easiest ways to show metrics and ghost your competition when you have an edge. But let's look at some of what they're showing. Trade-offs. Trade-offs are going to highlight what your solution offers while the competition doesn't. So we have the example. Unlike platforms that charge per user, our pricing is charged is based on usage. So you only pay for what you need. There you go. You only pay for what you need. There are no hidden costs. You're ghosting anyone that's going to give you a pricing that has some kind of hidden cost that they're not being honest about. That's one possible way. Risk avoidance. Positioning your offer as a safer choice. So with 99% uptime and 24/7 support, we eliminate the risk of service interruptions that can impact your operations. That risk avoidance, of course, is high on any, I believe, probably high on any client's needs. I know with all of the proposals I've put in, risk is one thing that they're looking at in choosing the right company who may bring the most risk. So throw those risk avoidance statements as a ghosting tactic throughout your proposal. We'll get to where we're going to apply them next. Customer priorities, speak directly to what matters. We know what the client wants. So if the client wants something that is integrating into their current system, then we would of course say something like our solution integrates with your your existing systems. So there's no need to replace what already works. Simple statement. Next, proof points using metrics. Metrics are my favorite thing in the world. Numbers speak volumes, I believe, when you can show that clients report a 35% reduction in manual tasks within the first months of using our platform. That's something that we use on one of our commercial off-the-shelf type products that we sell in our industry that you'll have. It's much easier to turn around work, or it cuts down work time by X% amount of time, and that's been proven by our users, for example. And then customer language. We all know this. It's a tenet of our proposal industry. We want to mirror the client's language and priorities so that we show that we do understand their world better than the competitors. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. It has an example on the screen for you. One of the things that that works really well is with your repeat clients, right? So that's an easy one that you can do. But also, if you may not know the client, maybe this is one of those things that's been tossed to you and nobody really knows the client. You're just trying to open up a door with that client. One way that you can go into it is looking at, I'm losing my train of thought. I am so sorry, everyone. I had a point and it completely vanished from my mind for talking about the customer's language. Show understanding. Here we go. Going to the customer's website if you don't have enough information about from the RFP, from your business development people, from capture, about their priorities, then go see if you can't find some master plan or or some kind of plan that they're set a strategic plan to see where you can find their priorities and how that ties into your bid, for example. And I'm trying to go, okay, here we go. Step 3, where are we going to embed those proposal ghosting techniques? Number 1, the executive summary. We're going to set the tone early. We can do it in our value proposition to reinforce those unique advantages. Our technical approach. Our technical approach is a great place to show metrics, I believe, at least in my industry. You may feel like it's better in a management plan. You kind of need to show your metrics where it makes sense. But in a technical approach, to show exactly what it says on your screen, how your method avoids common pitfalls. In your management plan, again, emphasizing how reliable and accountable you are, your past performance metrics to show success in similar environments. And again, honing in on the metrics. If you do not have metrics available to you, start tapping on shoulders, start asking, start getting some of those numbers so that you can use them. And of course, key personnel resumes. By using metrics to ghost teams with less relevant or less proven staff. And that really depends on if you know who their staff is. So again, you need to know the client. But I believe that after you take all of your client intel, basically doing a SWOT analysis, and you start building all of these, what's good about us, how can we make ourselves look better in this one area, that you're going to come together with ghosting techniques that you'll be able to use. And then we all know visual reinforcement. It's like everybody knows why it's important to use visual reinforcement. We all know it's a lot easier to catch an evaluator's eyes with a simple to understand graphic. But broken down just for ghosting, if you use a side-by-side comparison to show your solution and how it addresses the customer's hot buttons, you're not putting it side-by-side to your competitor, but you are showing that you can check those boxes. Timeline graphics can show how you can implement or successfully complete a project on time, under budget, perhaps, but it's best used if your timeline is shorter than industry standards, because you know that your competitors are probably going to use industry standards. Of course, risk mitigation visuals. Excuse me, my mouth is really dry. With icons and metrics to highlight your proven record. And compatibility maps. This is one that I think is useful for certain areas of work, but also depends on your competitor, because your competitor may have the same geographic reach you do. But if there are capability maps that you can show where your competitors have a limited reach and you have more, think about moving that into your proposal as well as a way to ghost your competition. And then, of course, we all know action captions and call outs can subtly ghost our competitors while reinforcing our strengths, right? So these are all things that we all pretty much, I think, as anyone who has been in the proposal industry for at least a year, right, knows some top line levels of importance of knowing this information and how this connects to that. And really, it's just bringing it together, using it as a ghosting tactic. So these are all tools and things that we already know. It's just putting it together again. for ghosting. So your best practices, we're going to start early. We're going to stay customer focused. We're going to be specific. We're going to use metrics that are validated. They're quantifiable data. And most of all, we must be ethical. We never name a competitor or use their proprietary information. And I think most of all, I want to say the ethics is the biggest part of it. As proposal managers, or whether you're, a writer or you're in capture business development, we all know that being ethical in our bids is the best way to move forward. We also know that there are some competitors out there that are less ethical. So stay above the fray, be ethical, and keep moving forward. And that's pretty much it. Those are the basic elements of ghosting the competition. But I would love for you all to ask more, dive deeper, or if you have a tactic that you believe that has worked for you in a past that wasn't brought up in the presentation, I welcome you to share that information. Or there can be an open discussion, a Q&A on ghosting.
This is really helpful. I mean, a lot of times I struggle with how to do that, like concretely when I'm putting together a proposal. And those were some really like concrete strategies. I love the one you had, the side-by-side comparison charts for customer hot buttons. That's a really great idea.
Mm-hmm. And I think that like I said, depending on your industry, there are certain elements that are going to work better for you than would work, probably for me in doing geospatial. But I also know there are elements that if I were to move over and support an aviation proposal, I would be using some different kinds of information. So if you've never ghosted before, or you really want to start weaving this in to your submissions, you can start in the middle of a proposal, really. It's just a matter of if you can find one metric that can show how you are a better choice than a competitor. You want to put that metric up front. You don't want to say our competitor. That was the whole point of ghosting without naming your competitor. But one metric can make a huge difference in supplying the evaluator with concrete, quantifiable evidence. And that's what it's really all about, making the evaluator feel that we are the right choice. They're making the right choice by going with us. And we have, hopefully, successfully, can't do the job nearly as well as we can. And we've proven this throughout our proposal. That's the bottom line. Anything else? I'm so used to you all being a little on the quiet side, so.
I have a question for you and also for the group. How do you find time to do this? Because I feel like, we're always trying to meet deadlines, and it's sometimes you just don't have time to think this strategically or make new graphics or things like that. So how do you set aside time for it? Or like, what do you feel like are some of the things you can do that are like quick and easy?
One thing that I do is I will have actually notes on strategy that I take throughout the proposal process. One of the current bids that I'm on right now, it's been a very heavy lift, and I use a workbook for all of my accountability, from calendars to scheduling to action items that I assign out, so forth and so on. It's got all the information that I need, and anybody who cares to look at my workbook can also glean information from. One thing that I'm doing now is taking proposal strategy tactics that have been thrown out during our meetings, because I'm with a group that does not communicate on a regular basis, and I'm lucky to get them in a meeting sometimes. So as soon as they throw out a proposal tactic, I log it. I log it as a note to myself, and I make sure it's in that notebook so that everybody can see that it's a part of the strategy. When I can't start early, which right now in this year, 2025 has been, fast, hard to go. I mean, I feel like I'm using a straw now so that I can breathe. I'm underwater. So yeah, it is hard to find time. But Rachel, in your situation, do you have someone doing capture? Do you have a business development individual doing capture, or are you playing in the role of capture?
Yes, we work with we have sales teams and they're doing the business development and capture work. So they usually come to us with what they want the strategy to be. And if they're good at their job, then they'll tell us like, hey, this customer's unhappy with their current situation and we can use that to ghost, but some are better than others and sometimes we just don't know that much about the customer and so that's I think that's a little bit tricky too. It's just my team's not really part of. I guess it doesn't oversee that part of the process as much. So, but we kind of are because we work with them to kind of get that strategy of what we're offering and what we think the customer will be most interested in and how to kind of get them to choose us instead of a competitor.
And I think in situations where I'm faced with less information than I want about the client, it is not just reading the RFP, but also going to the client's website. And I will see work within municipalities. So anything that like for example, I remember reading what is it, the minutes for a school board meeting. We Something that we were proposing on was within a school district, and I was reading minutes from a school board meeting to glean more information about the client. It would be a new client for us. The business development individuals had good information, had some good history on them, but they weren't really keeping up with what was going on at the moment. It was all historical information. They hadn't really done their updated work for the next proposal round. So I think that when you're looking at any like entity that has a public interface where they might share meeting minutes, you'll be able to go to their site and look at that, whether it's a city, municipality, so forth and so on. Outside of that, especially with short notice, I think it is go to the client website, get what you can get, what little information, and perhaps feed it into one of your AIs if you have one. I know Copilot has been great. Uh, Kelly Axley, I know, has used Copilot to use gathering intel on past pursuits that we've worked on together as well. So, and of course, we all know that when you use AI, it's not 100% correct. So you really do have to go back and check and make sure. And sometimes, even our licensed Copilot can sometimes get information about us wrong. So you have to check with that. But our biggest thing is use your resources. Your resources are people, they're tools, and I mean, really and truly, that's in yourself. Really, you can be your own resource. But when the people are not available, it's just you. Then it's a quick jaunt over to something, or maybe even calling up someone who knows a little bit more about the client, asking for 15 minutes of their time. It's a matter of availability, right? I think all of us are working with individuals who have limited availability. And if not, then maybe they're not doing their jobs completion. I'm hoping that our business development guys are out there and developing the business as well and getting us intel, but we know it varies from company to company. Any other questions or feedback? Okay, so let's see. We usually do our giveaway, and we have such a small little group of people here today that let's see here. We have how many people do we have in our list? I was going to do a number random number generator because I haven't typed out the names of everybody in attendance today. So if you give me just one quick second, I'm going to do a random number. And actually, I'll just share my screen. My actual, not that one. That wasn't the screen I was trying to share. I was trying to share this screen. Okay, so this is everyone that I see, and I start counting from 1, 2, 3, all the way across. And of course, board members are not eligible for the free giveaway. So if it picks a number there, random number generator here. If it picks someone that that's a board member, we'll go somewhere. We'll go with the next number. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12 of us. So here, I'm going to pull this down right quick. And let's see. Number 7. Who's number 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Jesse, you're a winner. Our $25 gift card winner.
Yay!
I will contact you directly. I've got I do believe I have your current email address. I want to say that you asked me to change it. Please confirm.
I'll
You asked me. Okay. And with that, unless anybody has any questions or comments, we'll call it. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here. We'll call it a close. Be on the lookout for our next meeting next month. We already have Todd Baylor booked to come and talk to us. It's on our website. A notification will go out shortly. Probably at least 2 weeks in advance of the meeting to remind everyone to visit the website and sign up for the next topic that we'll be speaking on. If anything, just join, halfway through and maybe win a $25 gift card by the end of the meeting. So
just a quick reminder too, all of these sessions do go up on our website. If you go to apmp-midsouth.org, there's a, on the navigation panel, there's a button for content. So all of these recordings get uploaded a few days after the presentation if you ever want to go back through our library.
And if anybody has any problems with the website, alert us. Also, just one last thing, if you have any lingering meetings on your calendar for Mid-South that came from Caleb or from me directly that you did not sign up for, those meetings are invalid, and there's no way. We have tried to delete them from our Mid-South calendar, and nothing that we can do can get rid of some of the lingering meeting invitations that are still on people's calendars. So just keep an eye out for it. If you did not sign up for that meeting, then that meeting is no longer valid, as a reminder. And I'll keep pushing that too until we know that everybody's resolved with that. So with that, thank you all very much. And Jesse, if you'll hang on for just a second, and I can verify that I've got the right email address for you. And I hope everyone has a great weekend.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Rachel, you can hit end event when you're finished.
Okay,
I'm
sorry.
just gonna leave. No, you're good. I just didn't want to kick Jesse out.
There we go.
Okay.
Let's see.